Good evening, everyone. My name is Lesejo. I'm going to be the facilitator for today's sessions. And today we are going to have a nice time discussing the 4IR issues. I'm going to welcome everyone who is in the class today for today's session. And I would really want to honor the presence of Professor Tilisi Marala and Natalie Raphael. And we have a special live performance to kickstart the Johannesburg Philharmonic Orchestra, which comprises of Miko and Susan, where we play live piece in an effort to give back to all attendees as a token of appreciation during the difficult times we are going through as a nation due to COVID-19. Over to you.
Okay.
Bravo! Thank you very much. Thank you very much. At a very difficult time that the nation is facing the coronavirus, we needed the comfort as a nation. And we thank you, Johannesburg Philharmonic Orchestra, for the wonderful and needed piece of instrument and at this time. I'm going to explain what I do in BMF. My name is Lese Hohongwe, and I am the member of Fourth Industrial Revolution National Desk at Black Management Forum. I'm also a good member in standing. I'm a CEO of I Speak Global Consultant. I'm going to introduce our wonderful guest today, um, Mrs. Natalie Ralph. Ladies and gentlemen, a big welcome to one of the best innovators. She is a CEO of Women in AI South Africa, ambassador, innovator, inventor, recently accepted at Stanford University, First National Bank, and only black female first prize innovation winner for 4 years in a row, winning the first ever innovation prize at the age of 23. Leads women in AI South Africa education stream, and it is not enough. She has a PhD. You know what this PhD mean? It means passion for her development. Her inventions include Africans automators, RPA, robotic process automation, software, biodegradable 3D printed drinking filters, straws, and with investors partnerships, built in Africans, AI working stick, and various other machines learning first. Ladies and gentlemen, give your hands together to Natalie Ralph.
Please enable your audio, Natalie.
So I think it was a connection issue. I said thank you for the extraordinary welcome and introduction. I must correct Lesego, though. I am Miss Natalie Rafel and not Mrs. In saying that, I'm going to get on with speaking about humans are essential. So let me know once my screen is seen. Just trying to, there we go. Is everyone clear? I think we can see the screen now. The history of humankind is replete with many examples of natural and man-made calamities, which have caused human beings to re-examine and re-engineer their way of doing things, be it in business, education, health, social relations. However, none can come close to the effect that COVID has had on our people across the globe, particularly the manner in which it has influenced the urgency and the speed with which we have been compelled to embrace and actualize 4IR. Granted, the entire world, and indeed our own country, had already been grappling with the introduction of 4IR in the broader spheres of society, including in the business and education sectors, before COVID was unexpectedly unleashed onto an unsuspecting and less than ready world. As we all know, the difficulties of this time, the social isolation, closures of workplaces and the places that we hang out at, centers providing education, social spaces, as I mentioned, to slow the spread of the virus, are mitigated somewhat by technology. Most of us are looking to AI and technology as a saving grace. Until now, there has been reticence to fully embrace the possibilities of living, working, and delivering services digitally. As a society, we have had an attitude problem. We have known what is plausible, the digital possibilities, but there have been always excuses as to why not go fully digital. Now, more than ever, there's just no more excuses. We have been flung, like it or not, into a digital life. Staff are working from home in their millions. Meetings are happening, and webinars like today are happening remotely. Students across the planet are studying through e-learning. Drones are delivering medicine to patients in remote areas. We are also seeing that this new environment works rather well. This global trauma has brought the entire planet to an inflection point where we must reconsider many things. So my question is, what has become our new rhythm over the last few months? We've accepted Zoom, WhatsApp, calls, Teams meetings, this webinar, Skype, for instance. We've accepted Google Classroom, virtual teachers, virtual interactions, the shield that is now parading around us, UV light robots. We're now being scanned for our temperatures before going into social spaces, whether it's education spaces or just shopping malls. But my favorite of all, in Kigali, we're seeing that drones are transporting medical supplies to rural areas. And these supplies also include blood. So where people really require delivery of blood supply, they are now able to get it. And this is all happening right here on African ground. And some of the pictures you probably seen flash by you, but 3D printers has now taken over, really. We've seen our Prada and Dior accessories, also known as face shields, being printed rapidly right here in our own country. We have track and trace systems that's tracking and tracing the spread of COVID. We have robots carrying UV lights parading in ICU at Johannesburg Sunninghill Hospital. Senegal has developed home test kits, which provides COVID results within minutes. E-commerce is booming. We have virtual doctors, and I'm not sure if anyone in the audience has visited your virtual doctor in this time frame. In the short term, we need to deal with the disease itself, of course. But when we emerge on the other side of this challenge, and people have been exposed to these very workable solutions at a time of crisis, they may just loathe to give all of this up. There may also be broader, more meaningful impacts, such as the democratization of education by rolling out connectivity to the poorest of poor. Wi-Fi may no longer be facetiously listed as a new addition to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It may be acknowledged as a human right to enable every person to realize their full potential. With data costs coming down here in South Africa, we may already be moving in this direction. What we are also likely to see in this process is that knowledge, for some time sidelined as geeky, a technical pursuit, will come to occupy a more prominent position in society. Now you have listened to me and you're probably thinking, Natalie, have we really done anything to assist in this pandemic? Has technology really assisted us? Yes, I flashed a few photographs and you perhaps don't really believe me. And it only becomes meaningful once we see that AI and technology have created avenues for job creation. So let's look at that quickly. I see that we have introduced old roles like data capturers. We are really in need of data capturers right now. We've seen drone pilots, artisans, people who are technically inclined to service these drones, drone logistics operations coming through. There's a whole host, but there's 4 prominent ones for me. the reintroduction of data capturers, we kind of isolated data capturers as mundane, repetitive tasks. And right now, we see physical humans going out to field, taking tests, providing results, writing down a whole host of medical data to assist AI to do what AI needs to do. I mean, 3D printer artisans, there is no time like now where 3D printers are being used to its max. We see artisans come through, service these machines, change small little parts that allow these 3D printers to go on manufacturing what is considered essential right now. Robotic process experts, being from anyone called an analyst to solution designers, developers, or coders, are writing some sort of code that has assisted organizations continue with daily operations during the first few weeks where we could not get to an office, where we could not get to our desktops, because many of us do have desktops in those massive organizations. And that allowed salaries to still be paid. Teach the teacher roles have come through. We've seen teach the teacher in a sense that we are all students right now. We all need to learn how to use Skype and how to use Teams. And we see that in the rural communities, WhatsApp calls are coming through predominantly. And the people who are new to this technology are being taught by those that come to our varsities or schools or places of education. So teach the teacher roles are becoming much more relevant and important in society today. So all of these roles are a mix between human and AI. I want us to know that social consciousness is needed if we are to create a sustainable way of life on this planet. As businesses close and stocks plummet, it also becomes clear that workers, people, are more important than capital. However, AI can and will and has assisted in aiding our people during this pandemic. And even when the road is smoother, AI will be there, and so will us humans. The human role in technology is and must be kept in the foreground through all of this, because it's essential. And it's essential because only humans can improve the quality of human life. And if it is exploited to its full extent, to the benefit of all humankind, whereby AI is used to assist us humans, this in itself is revolutionary. And if anything I have left you with, I want you to know that AI is simply harmonizing human and artificial intelligence. AI cannot exist without human intelligence. Charles Darwin says that it is not the strongest of species nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. I trust that I have created deep dents in our attitude problem, nudging us to subconsciously accept that AI is here to serve us because we as humans are essential. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalie. A wonderful presentation.
I'm not sure if you're going to do questions now or later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What a wonderful presentation. Yes. I would really want to have a question and answers, but because of time, we would combine the questions with Professor, I think.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to introduce Professor Tsilis Marala. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, he is a doctor of philosophy. He is a doctor of philosophy in engineering, a master of engineer from University of Pretoria, bachelor of science and mechanical engineer. So Western Reserve. He is the advanced level studies at St. John College. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor, he is a vice chancellor and a principal at University of Johannesburg. And he's a former deputy vice chancellor in research and internalization. He is a recipient of Mapungube Award. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a deputy chairperson of the Fourth Industrial Revolution Presidential Commission in South Africa. Professor Tsilis Marala is a visiting appointed professor in most international universities. He's a rating NRFI scientist and also B3 international acclaimed researcher and C2 established researcher and a bronze order of Mapungube by the president in 2004. Ladies and gentlemen, please give your warm hands to Professor Tsilis Marala.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I can see I am not complete on the screen. I really wanted to talk about the fourth industrial revolution, and in particular, I wanted to build on what Natalie has talked about on artificial intelligence, specifically addressing issues that we should be concerned about and issues that we should pay attention to so that we are not left behind. And then finally, I wanted to really talk about this COVID-19 and how do I see us moving forward so that our economy can actually be saved. And in conclusion, I will talk about the recommendations of the Fourth Industrial Revolution Commission. They are out, the report is out, and we are actually going to implement many of the recommendations that have come out of that engagement. Now, what is this thing called the Fourth Industrial Revolution? It is basically a period in which the means and mode of production are advanced using intelligent technologies. Now, what are the means of production? We know about when I was growing up, we used to do subsistence farming, which means my family had a plot where I could go and plant. So the means of production were the instruments that we used in the production of whatever plants and vegetables and fruits that my parents used to grow in their small plot. So now in the fourth industrial revolution, those instruments, whether they are tractors, whether they are, just digging forks, are actually automated. They are intelligent. They are able to operate on their own. So this is really what the fourth industrial revolution is bringing to us. It's ushering, and it is an era that is ushering intelligent automation. Of course, it is a confluence of other technologies. You have artificial intelligence on one hand, which falls in the cyberspace. You have the physical developments, the making of robots, for example. You have biotechnological advancement, gene editing, where a gene can be changed so that it is able to be what human beings do. And an interesting gene editing project is a project that I read about, where farmers in Japan realized that when you pack tomatoes, because they are round, you have lots of empty spaces that remain. So they edited the gene of the tomatoes so that they can come square and you can be able to pack them nicely. So this is an example of gene editing. Now, in particular, one technology that dominates the fourth industrial revolution is artificial intelligence. I did a PhD in artificial intelligence at the University of Cambridge from the year 1997 to 2000. So people say, but that is almost 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. Isn't artificial intelligence new? No, artificial intelligence has been around for a long time. In fact, artificial intelligence has been around for almost 70 years. What has advanced, and I will talk about this, is that the algorithms, which many of them were developed in the 80s and the 70s, including deep learning. People don't realize that deep learning is basically a neural network, which is a piece of machine that is motivated by the way, inspired by the way our human brain works, and then based on that we create intelligent machines. So all these technologies were developed in the 80s and the 70s. What has changed is that we are able to build much more sophisticated computers. With sophisticated computers, we are able to build big neural networks, and when neural networks become big, they are called deep learning. Secondly, we are able to feed lots of data to those artificial intelligent machines called neural networks. Very, very important. When I was doing a PhD, I created a piece of software that is able to tell you whether a building is about to collapse or not. And it used artificial intelligence. For me to train that artificial intelligence, I used less than 500 examples. Examples are basically a piece of data that you use in order to train your machine so that it can become intelligent. Now today, if we talk about 500 data points, it's laughable. You can basically feed millions and millions and millions of data to a machine and train it within a very short space of time. During that time, to train my machine, I will have to wait for almost 24 hours for answers. If I were to run the same program today, it will be completed in less than a second. So you can see the advancement in computational power and how that advancement have unleashed a new revolution on its own, meaning that now we can actually deploy those artificial intelligent algorithms into self-driving cars, into self-flying aeroplanes. Very, very important. Now, what are the issues that we should be concerned about? For example, you have a virtual doctor that is able to do the task that is done by a real doctor using artificial intelligence. The big question that we should ask ourselves is what happens if that machine makes mistakes? If it is a human doctor, he probably will be called upon by the Health Council of South Africa to explain what went wrong. And if it is negligence, his license to be able to practice as a doctor may be in jeopardy. But if it is a machine, who do we hold responsible? Secondly, these machines are fed data. Is that data representative enough? And in many algorithms that are available, such as TensorFlow, the algorithm would have been made by Google. The data may have been collected by somebody else. How do you divide responsibilities between the maker of the algorithm and the gatherer of data? So we should be concerned about that. The second concern is, where is Africa in all this? Where are the African entrepreneurs who are taking AI algorithms, building them, and sending them into the marketplace? Where are they? If they are not there, what are we supposed to do about that? So this is really about AI. Now, I really wanted to talk about COVID-19 also. We have reached a point where people's movement are being restricted because of COVID-19. What is going to happen in the post-COVID world? The world is not going to be the same. If you want to visit if you wanted to visit China or United States in the last 4 years ago, you will go to the Chinese embassy or the American embassy and apply for a visa. And then they're going to stamp your passport. And you can be able to use that passport visa, the visa that is stamped in your passport, to visit United States and China. Now, given that we have COVID-19, and given the fact that we probably are not going to find a vaccine for it, we probably are not going to find a cure for it, what is going to happen to tourism? I believe that after that, when you go to the American embassy or any other embassy, they are going to give you a visa, but they are going to give you something that you will put probably around your arm, locked. That is going to trace where you are going and what movement you make, so that if you have infectious disease, they can be able to track your movement and be able to quarantine whoever they are supposed to quarantine. I think biometric data, such as diseases that we are susceptible to would actually need to be factored into account. I think when you go to embassies, instead of just seeing a person, just an ambassador and his secretaries, sometimes you get a military attaché. You're going to get health attaché because the issue of health has become very, very important. Now, in closing, the Fourth Industrial Revolution Commission has come up with a report. This report has many, many recommendations, but I am going to talk about the 8 main recommendations. The first one, for South Africa not to be left behind in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, South Africa must invest in human capacity development in areas of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, such as artificial intelligence. This necessarily will mean that people should not necessarily have to start learning about artificial intelligence when they come to universities. They should already study artificial intelligence in the first year and second year of their schools, their schooling. We should even introduce it in preschool. Here at the University of Johannesburg, we have written a book on AI for children because we believe that the earlier you start, the better. In Japan, there was a gentleman by the name Ibuka. Ibuka is one of the founders of a company called Sony, the big electronics company. He once wrote a book in the 1930s. And the title of the book is that 3 years is too late, meaning that we should teach as much as possible crucial skills to children under the age of 3 as much as possible. Skills like problem-solving skills, ability to communicate verbally, using symbols, ability to count, mathematical, ability to reason, logical skills. So we wrote this book, Artificial Intelligence for Children. In fact, it's called my first AI book. Simply because we believe that we have to start early in teaching this. Secondly, we need to teach people who already have degrees but they have missed out on artificial intelligence. Adult-based education almost must become compulsory. Our people must reskill themselves because many jobs that they are trained for are going to disappear. Very, very important. So this is the recommendation about human capacity development. Our educational system must be multidisciplinary. If you are studying psychology, you must also study technology. If you are studying engineering, you must also study sociology. You will agree with me that Facebook will only be founded by somebody who is studying not just computer science, but computer science and psychology, which is what Mark Zuckerberg was doing. Then in South Africa, we do not have a system where you could study computer science and sociology as a major. And we know that in the future, in fact, not even in the future now, solutions that need to be developed are probably technical, but they require understanding of society and people. The second recommendation is that South Africa must establish a national AI institute. The same way we established the CSIR to increase the competitiveness of South Africa, we should also establish an AI institute, National AI Institute, and it should be a private-public partnership, because we understand that knowledge does not necessarily reside in the public space, in private government space. It also exists in the private space. We need to come together, and I hope that BMF is going to start something around AI. I think BMF must lead this issue of making sure that this National AI Institute work for us. And this National AI Institute must focus on applications in agriculture, applications in tourism, applications in manufacturing. So that is the second recommendation. The third recommendation is that we need to establish the Advanced Manufacturing Institute. South Africa is deindustrializing because we have not invested in technology. We have not modernized our means of production. We have not adopted sophisticated means of production. And because of that, shoes that used to be made in Doornfontein in Johannesburg are no longer made there. We import them from China. That model is not sustainable for us. We can't continue to be importing things that we could otherwise produce ourselves. It makes us poorer because for us to import goods and services from outside the country, we have to give away our foreign reserves. Giving away our foreign reserves means we are becoming poorer. And we believe that the Advanced Manufacturing Institute must actually come up with a strategy and plans and executions of how do our industries absorb technology so that they become competitive and our people are able to buy the shoes that were made here in South Africa instead of shoes that have been made in Vietnam. The fourth recommendation is to create a national data center. There is an example that I have been given that if a judge wants to get hold of the judgment they made 4 years ago, then they have to go to a bookstore called Juta to get it. Because we do not have an efficient way of storing information. The data center must make sure that data that is being extracted from South Africa by companies such as Facebook and Twitter are text. There is a statement now that says that data is the new oil. If data is the new oil, why do we allow companies to come and extract our data or our oil, if you believe that data is the new oil, without any taxation at all? I asked one of the senior government officials, how much data do you think Twitter collects from South Africa per day? And nobody knows. It does not even fall under the regulatory framework of ICASA. And we need to change that. We need to create, to buy clouds. Economies of scale are important for managing the cost of this. Now, why should a young entrepreneur, member of BMF, how do we facilitate access to the cloud? Of course, there are issues of cybersecurity, but we can deal with those issues. Then the fifth recommendation is incentivize the deployment of 4IR technologies, especially by small and medium enterprises. Because if you are a small and medium enterprise, you probably do not have all the resources that you need in order to create to deploy artificial intelligence, for example, unless you are specializing in it. How do we incentivize you to go out there and deploy the latest technologies so that you can be competitive not only in South Africa but globally? The sixth recommendation is to invest in fire infrastructure. Naturally, it means we should invest in 5G. And I've been talking quite a great deal about 5G. Very, very quick, very, very fast. 4G, when you download a movie, it takes 6 hours. 5G takes 6 seconds. And the model that is being pursued now is not going to lead to telcos investing in rural areas. Yes, we have a framework where there is an arrangement that 1% of the revenues of telcos must be collected and given to an organization called USASA, Universal Services Agency of South Africa, so that they can be able to invest where it is not economical for telcos to invest. So we need to make sure that there is at least a fair access to 4IR infrastructure, so that a small and medium enterprise that is located in Umlazi actually is not locked out of the business opportunities that the fourth industrial revolution is actually giving, so that entrepreneur is given a fair chance to compete with technology without having to be left behind because the 5G telcos have not invested 5G in their location. Then the seventh recommendation is to review all the laws in South Africa to see whether they are in line with the fourth industrial revolution. Airbnb operates in South Africa, but because it operates from the cloud, it does not fall under our tax regime. How do we change the law so that we can be able to take into account of that? And of course, we'll find out that there are the existing laws. By just reviewing and updating the existing laws is not enough. We probably will have to create new laws that are in line with the fourth industrial revolution. And the eighth recommendation, which is a very important recommendation, is that we are a nation of talkers. We are a nation that generates lots of ideas. We have the National Development Plan. We have political parties talking about the National Democratic Revolution. We have the advanced manufacturing strategy. So we are a country that has ideas, and we talk about those ideas. I think where we are not as effective is on the implementation. We need to do more than we talk. We need to implement now more than we draft. We have drafted many things, and many of them we are not even succeeding in implementing. So the eighth recommendation is to create an implementation coordinating council within the presidency, so that these recommendations do not end just as documents, but they get implemented so that we can be able to take our people economically to another level, so that they can be able to compete both here at home and outside, so that their products can be exported, so that our economy can grow and our country can become wealthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. A very wonderful presentation. Wow, I can think about many things concerning the AI. You have mentioned a lot when it comes to the advancement of manufacturing institutes. I think one can relate those the advancement of manufacturing institute with the establishments of the 3D technologies when it comes to dealing with this thing with the coronavirus in this context, and the data centers, very important issues that we need to deal with. But we also have other issues that are concerning the digital space, and also as much as we deal with the cyber issue of the 4IR, which is the artificial intelligence part of it, the Internet of Things as it relates to dealing with the resources for the 4IR. We also need to deal with the physical parts of the fourth industrial revolution, especially this time of an hour. We thank you very much, sir, for the wonderful presentation you have given us. We have questions from some of the attendees and the innovators that are into the room. Tieti Madibo, he's asking Natalie, is Natalie part of any team that is helping the government with the artificial intelligence during this time of the pandemic? And are there any case studies that she can share with South Africans? What artificial intelligence workshops are they available into our young youth or young people out there? How can they help them understand the impact of AI in South Africa? The question was directed to Natalie. How can we make sure that the young people in South Africa understand the artificial intelligence in this time and era? Natalie, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. No, I am not a part of any government organizations or assisting with driving AI during the pandemic. However, I don't think we need to be a part of an organization to make a difference. What we're looking at from a community point of view is how to solve issues and take a solution back to our government. I think that's important to note. And then what AI workshops are available for youth out there, and understand the impact of AI in South Africa and globally. There's various, and I'm not sure if you're on social media or you're part of a LinkedIn group or AI in South Africa specifically. UJ runs tons of online webinars, tons of social classes that give light to what we're doing here in South Africa and Africa regards to AI. I know we have a company called Zindi Africa, which issues global challenges, AI challenges that anyone from the community who has access to Zindi can read the challenge and participate from an AI point of view. I'm the ambassador for Women in AI South Africa. We have a global network of over 90 countries. The sun looks amazing. And a part of that community is we offer mentorship to anyone who wants to be part of the AI community. We take you from ground up, offer networking opportunities to the rest of the AIs here in South Africa as well as Africa. So I suggest you then you get to know about what we're doing by joining the community, womeninai.co, and then choose South Africa. And from there, you'll be opened up to a vast network of AIs here in South Africa and Africa. Secondly, I would suggest you follow UJ and the universities, as well as Dynamic DNA, Women in Computer Science, vastly, because those institutions offer academics research as well as assistance come, with AI. So I hope I answered your question, and if you need any more assistance, I'm available on Twitter only. So drop me a DM, and I'll respond, and I'll assist you where I can personally.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Um, Prof, there's a question for you, sir, from CSC, and he is asking if are there any recommendations for if that enables infrastructural development for IR from the report. Prof?
Unfortunately, we can't hear you.
All right. The question was, does the report has any recommendation on infrastructure enabling 4IR in the various areas? Prof?
It's you, Manalo. It's like a thing. Okay, anymore. Okay, anymore.
Prof, I think you're still on mute.
Yes.
He's still on mute.
Prof?
Prof, can you hear us? I think you're still on mute.
Can you hear me, Prof?
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir. The question was, are there in the report, that the report has the recommendation that for infrastructure that enable 4IR in some various areas?
Yes, absolutely. One of the recommendations is building infrastructure for the fourth industrial revolution. And there are many infrastructure that are needed. One of the infrastructure that is needed is obviously data centers. And when we can't talk about data centers without energy. So unless you have reliable energy, then your data infrastructure is not going to be reliable. So the issue of building both renewable energy and coal-based energy in order to drive investment into data centers is very important. Issues around water, very, very important because the supply of energy, certainly using coal, requires water. Again, we are only going to succeed if we are able to build infrastructure around water also. Then issues around connectivity. I've talked about issues of connectivity. Rain is and Vodacom now are going to deploy 5G technology, but they are going to deploy it mainly in urban areas, Cape Town, eThekwini, and Johannesburg. So what do we do about that? Do we just proceed and leave behind people in rural areas, even semi-urban areas? No. We need to make sure that collectively as a country, we collectively invest in infrastructure in its totality in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. There's another last question that I would ask before. I will take 3 questions before we can move to the panel discussion. The question comes from Ketani. Ketani is asking, with regards to jobs, from an ethics point of view, what are the regulations that have been outdone to ensure that both private and public sector carry out human capital and development for shop floor, personnel, since manufacturing seems to be the most challenging, and to what percentage can this advanced technology be implemented? With regards to jobs, I repeat, from ethics point of view, what are the regulation that has been put down to ensure that both private and public sector carry out human capital development for shortfall of personal manufacturing? The question was directed to Professor.
No, thank you very much. I think the issue of jobs is very, very important, and it's not just the issue of ethics. It's also the issue of social cohesion. It's also the issue of economic development. Now, what is going to happen in this era of the fourth industrial revolution? Three things are going to happen. The first, jobs are going to change. Some jobs are going to change. Two, some jobs are going to disappear. Three, some new jobs are going to emerge. And for anybody to be ready for that change, they need to be skilled. Now, the question is saying that what incentives or what regulations are there that will ensure that companies reskill people? I don't think there are any regulations. The regulations are not there. Some companies are laying off people and putting them on the street. Some companies are reskilling people and redeploying them on the new emerging jobs, whatever jobs are available. So I think that is one of the things that the BMF must take. How do we make sure that companies actually start investing in new skills now, so that our people cannot be left in the lurch, unemployed and unskilled for the new economy that has just emerged? Thank you.
Maurice.
Coming from Maurice. Another question coming from Maurice is asking both Natalie and Prof. The question is, he's asking the speakers about artificial intelligence mining out embedded racism. For example, she says, many artificial intelligence systems writing through CVs are inherently racist, as they are replicating so-called past success or even programmed to search for proxies for discrimination. So the question is, how will be this regulated? Why should we be allowing black box algorithms to decide on whether we get selected for interviews or who is good for what? The bias against black people could become a super racism in the hands of artificial intelligence. I'm going to repeat the question. The question is, can the speakers elaborate about artificial intelligence mining embedded racism? For example, many artificial intelligence systems within the CVs are inherently racist, as they are replicating.
We're getting a lot of feedback. We're getting a lot of echo and feedback.
There's a lot of echo. For example, many artificial intelligence systems waiting through CVs are inherently racist, as they are replicating a so-called past success or even programmed to search for proxies for discrimination. How will this be regulated? Why should we allow black box algorithm to decide on whether we get selected for interviews or who is good or not? The bias against black people could become a super racist in the hands of artificial intelligence. That was a question from one of the inventors and the
I think I want to
attendees.
I want to go first, and I think we need to acknowledge that there are biases in the data that we have. In saying that, it does not allude to the fact that we, as data scientists or artificial intelligence inventors, need to propagate those biases. Now, AI in itself, in its true form, does not see race or creed, and it does not see biases. We as humans would inflict that within our programming for AI using data that is already biased. So I want to implore that we understand it's not the technology, and it comes back to human ethics. And organizations should drive ethical coding, ethical implementation of AI, and and where we know that biases do exist in our data, there should be implementations looking at whether we've curbed the biases, and I know they do exist. So I'm not saying and denying that they do not exist. But perhaps a good point to take is we should implement criticalities around looking for this type or these types of organizations who want to embellish propaganda, and steer away from it. But I do need the audience out here to know and understand that AI in its form, pure technology, its algorithms cannot build bias on its own. It reads off data, and if that data is biased, there are ways within AI to maneuver around it, and to tweak the algorithms to cater for more openness and equality. Prof, I'm not sure if you have anything to say.
No, I mean, I think you have definitely hit the nail on its head. I think what we need to do, we obviously need to embed the regulatory framework, because sometimes the data that is used, that is gathered, becomes biased because the state of the economy is biased. For example, in South Africa, where you have race and class are interlinked, then these companies obviously want to target people with more money, because some of them are effectively media companies. They want to sell data to somebody who's going to come and advertise to people. So if this just calls for regulating these technologies, firstly, we need to set the standard. We have to say this is the way in which we are going to operate, and if you are going to deploy an AI system in South Africa, these are the rules that you have to abide by in your representativity of your data, so that the algorithms are not biased. Thank you.
I'm going to stop it. To end the session, we are done. Just end the session. Tell them to end it. Tell them he can't speak.
my colleagues, I think there could be an issue there with the facilitator. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
we can.
Okay. What we can do is we can take a few more questions just to see if the facilitator can return. But just to continue with some of the questions on his behalf while he's still struggling to come back. Here's a question. Agreed. And this is the intersection of ethics and clean data generation. How are we working on this in South Africa or articulating it well enough? Prof. Natalie?
I'm not too sure what. I mean, is the issue of the integrity of the data? Is that the question?
I
So,
think the ask is, how are we, how are we protecting and articulating that ethics overrules, AI, I think. So the question, if I read it, and this is the intersection of ethics and clean data generation. How are we working on this in South Africa or articulating it well enough? I would say, it comes down to, do we need to articulate that we as a people need to be ethical? I know there's governance structures within each organization that constitutes ethical behavior and ethical software going into production. But I must tell you that whatever we're doing from an ethical point of view is done unethically. And therefore we have scammers and fraudsters who are hitting our bank accounts. And with AI, it comes down to a person. Are you ethical or aren't you ethical? And yes, we can govern it with laws and regulations. But again, if I understand an algorithm and I understand what the power behind AI is, it's up to me to either be ethical about it or go about it, to defraud and hack and do things that we consider as a society to be unethical.
Having a technical problem and Seko can see himself. He want to take over now. It's
thanks, Natalie.
Sure.
Yeah, seems like we're struggling to get the host back on. Can we take another question here? Yeah, it's directed